Surprising no one, Donald Trump won in South Carolina. He's going to win again, and Nikki Haley's funding's getting pulled. Donald Trump, he's going to be the Republican nominee. Now, the question is, what happens in November? Now, I had a tweet about allsides.com showing the bias of Google, and I said Google is rigging the 2024 election. As of right now, it has 35 million views on X. The funny thing about this, the media writes concerning Elon Musk fans online fire, accusing Google of rigging 2024 election. Okay. Yeah, it was my tweet, internet. But of course, it's not news that I put out a tweet proving that Google is rigging the 2024 election to 35 million people. It's only news when Elon Musk highlights it as well. To be fair, the 35 million views probably did come from Elon himself, but this is definitive proof. We talked about it last week, and it must be talked about now in the context of Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's losing her funding. We've got this from ABC News. Koch-backed group halts financial support for Nikki Haley. So why is she still here? Why can't we get to, let's see, Nikki Haley drop out? Why won't she drop out of the race? Trump won the South Carolina primary, and Nikki Haley isn't quitting. The reason is the game is rigged. Something's being planned. And we've got the evidence to back it up from all sides, which I think is very important to highlight in this circumstance following what happened with Nikki Haley's defeat. Because we have to be asking ourselves, what's going on here? Well, Nikki Haley in South Carolina, as is true for all these other states, is receiving massive support from Democrats. The argument made by Vivek Ramaswamy was that she is, I'm paraphrasing here, but she's the Democrat nominee. The reason why they're not running in a Democrat primary against Joe Biden is they want to defeat Trump in the primary. And perhaps they can. How? Donald Trump gets arrested, disqualified, or something happens. Nikki Haley is the only one left standing. And imagine what a presidential election would be if it was Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden. We're watching it all happen right now. But here's the important news to be highlighted here. And then we'll get into Elon Musk's statements on this, because I do think it's interesting to see his position. But this is something we highlighted last week, and I want to stress it in the wake of what we're seeing now in South Carolina. All sides media bias ratings of top sources curated by Google News homepage. On the left, Google, 63% of all of their search results are on the left. 16% are center. Only 6% are on the right. Well, let me show you how All Sides actually tracks this. And I'll first start by saying what this means. The average person Google searches something. They will be given a left-wing news source instead of a neutral news source. At the very least, you could balance it out, right? Google could make it so that if you search for news, you get a mix of left, right, and center. The left likes to make the argument that the reason they don't do this is because the right is fake news. Well, allsides.com breaks down the media bias with their bias ratings, and it's based on community input for the most part. Take a look at this. ABC News, left-leaning. Community strongly agrees with this. 43,000 votes. And you can just click agree. Alternate, left-wing, agree. Associated Press, left-wing, somewhat agrees. Associated Press is considered left, and the community somewhat disagrees, so we don't necessarily know. AP as center-left, I would agree with that. Okay, so thank you, it says. Thank you. You've got BBC considered center, and the community somewhat agrees. Breitbart is considered all the way on the right. Everybody agrees. You've got CNN, far left, absolute agreement. When you take into consideration user input and assessment, you are likely to get something called the wisdom of the crowds. The wisdom of the crowds showing that most people understand. I mean, if you've got everybody chiming in, then it stands to reason these ratings are fairly accurate. Now people are going on Google, searching for stories, and they're being given left-wing perspectives on them. And this is where we're currently at. Now, Nikki Haley is basically out, but she's still in the race for some reason. Right. Something's happening that we can't see. And I refer to it as the shadow campaign. In 2020, there was a shadow campaign. And let's just make sure I always got to pull up the shadow campaign article, because Otherwise, they'll claim I'm making things up. The secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. Time magazine. A weird thing happened, blah, blah, blah. They said, this is a quote from Time magazine, there was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protest and coordinated the resistance from CEOs. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans. Fascinating, to say the least. Business titans. This is where we are currently at in terms of the manipulation of the election by Google. Now, what this does in terms of Nikki Haley. She has about 20 delegates right now. She's getting support from Democrats because these people, these Democrats, don't know what they are talking about. You know, after watching that higher right chick Taylor Lorenz interview, I reached out to my booking team. I said, let's invite Taylor Lorenz onto the Culture War podcast to have this discussion. I'd love to have a discussion with her. I don't consider anything we do to be right wing, although that's what they say. But the reality is, if you read the news and know the facts, you are right wing. And if you go along with the establishment media narrative and big tech, you're left. Hence, the Shadow Campaign article saying left-wing activists teamed up with business titans, which brings us to where we are today. There is going to be an effort to support Nikki Haley, get her some delegates. This is likely in combination with not just Google, but many other outlets. With the Koch brothers pulling their funding, maybe she's done for, but we'll see. Then if Donald Trump is removed, she's the establishment safety net. All Sides writes, Google has a long history of media bias and favoring media outlets and views on the left. Back in 2018, All Sides found a 65% left bias in Google News. That number has remained relatively steady. Our latest look found Google News curated 63% of articles from liberal media outlets in 2023. Just 6% of outlets were on the right. Google was making headlines back in 2018 when Trump made accusations of Google's bias against conservatives. Accusations resurfaced again in 2019 when a Project Veritas, right-wing bias, video caught a Google executive saying that Google was trying to avoid another Trump situation. In fact, I believe it was a left-wing publication that exposed, what was it? I can't remember. There was a left-wing publication that showed Google employees crying over the fact that Donald Trump won. In 2022, All Sides found the keyword election returned 0 results from center, lean right, or right-related outlets in the weeks leading up to the 2022 midterms. A Google spokesperson claimed All Sides cherry-picked topics and that our study was too short for a snapshot to give the full picture of Google News. Well, here's a longer timeline. In 2018, then President Trump accused Google bias. This we understand. In 2018, they conducted their first review. Left-wing, 65% of sources. 2019, just 20 mostly lean left sources account for more than half of Google search results. CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Fox News, BBC, USA Today, LA Times, The Guardian, Politico, ABC News, CBS News, NPR, NBC News, CNBC, Reuters, Huffington Post, The Verge, Al Jazeera, The Hill, People. And many of these are rated as center. Don't get me wrong. Fox News is rated as right, but more than half of them are left-wing publications. They're going to say the top 20% of sources accounted for 86% of article impressions. The top 3 accounted for 23%. That summer, Project Veritas released a video of Google's then head of responsible innovation, Jen Janai, talking about Google's attempts to create an algorithm based on fairness. In it, she seems to imply in it, the duty of big tech companies is to prevent the next Trump situation. Elizabeth Warren is saying we should break up Google, Janai says in the video. And I love her, but she's very misguided. Like, that will not make it better. It will make it worse, because all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. This is their goal. In 2022, All Sides found 61% of news curated was on the left. In 2023, they found 63% was on the left, showing that things have gotten worse. Less centrist sources, slightly more right-wing sources, to be fair, but from only 3 to 6%, and more leftist sources. 2024, Google's AI Gemini accused of racial and gender bias. In February, there was an uproar about Google's new AI Gemini, which users claimed only generated people of color and would refuse prompts to generate images of white people. This we know. While Google may have never intentionally rigged toward promoting left-leaning views in its news and AI systems, it's clear that whether intentionally or not, Google bias is pronounced. And this is where we're currently at now. Forbes writes, Elon Musk targets Google search after claiming company AI is insane and racist. It's worse than that. But I do appreciate what we are seeing with Gemini. It's showing that when you take the ideologies of all of these staff members at Google, what you end up getting is a cult. And what they will produce is nightmarishly racist. Pictures of black men in Nazi uniforms serving Adolf Hitler. Yeah, that one pissed off the left quite a bit. And that's the result of what they've asked for. Here's what I think we're seeing. Right now, the employees at Google live in a world created by their own algorithms. They told Google to make certain content because we want to be fair and just. Well, Google did just that, making nonsensical content, as we've seen with Google Gemini. They then believed that nonsensical content and fed it back into the machine. You know, when it comes to the AI apocalypse, a lot of people always wanted to imagine Terminators, Ultron, a robot who will say, in order to end war, wipe out all humans, then there won't be war. Actually, the real AI apocalypse is happening right before our very eyes. It will affect this election, it will affect our companies, and it will result in the destruction of our civilization. The way I described it before was Corn World. That's right, Corn World. What does that mean? Well, when humans program an artificial intelligence, it simply wants to accomplish whatever the goal programmed into it is. True artificial general intelligence may actually overcome these biases and truly understand humankind, but I'm not so sure we get there. I'm not so sure the AGI would care the same way we do. Maybe that's the machine that will go full Terminator. But what's going to happen is the AI says, and you know what's funny is the Corn World scenario I give already happened. It is, and we're living in it. Let me explain. An AI takes a look at what humans in this country do, in America, and says, give humans what they want. What does it find? We, for some reason, spend a lot of money on corn. We subsidize it. We turn it into plastic. We turn it into fuel. We eat it. We make corn on the cob, buttered corn, creamed corn, all that stuff. Corn, staple crop. And so jokingly, half jokingly, I say the AI then starts promoting more and more corn because people engage with it. It's what humans want. Eventually, everything's shifted into corn production. TV shows are about corn because the AI is making all of this stuff. Eventually, people are walking around dressed like corn on corn-shaped phones because the AI doesn't know the difference between why a human likes corn and why a human likes anything else. So it just says, this gets the most attention, make more. That happened. That already happened. It's the world we live in now, and it's Google, Facebook, it's their fault. The employees of Google and Facebook probably started off as normal human beings, but they created an algorithm. The algorithm simply said, show people more of what they like. It started creating feedback loops of police brutality, racism, sexism, and then the employees at Google started swimming in the refuse. When all information on digital media started shifting towards crackpot far-left ideologies, journalists started absorbing it as well. And you end up with articles based on lies pumped back into the AI, and now the AI is totally broken, producing fake news, fake information, and exacerbating these claims. I don't know how you solve for it, but now with Google adding to the mix, even worse with Gemini, more individuals will Google search things, get trapped in a left-wing bias, produce left-wing news, and it's called cytogenesis, or cytogenesis, whatever you want to call it, where they will make up fake stories, feed the fake stories to each other, and then everything burns down. Now, while I joke about Corn World, where everyone's dressed like corn, eating corn, cheering for corn, watching TV shows about corn, the reality is that already happened with systemic racism, with white supremacy, and all of these far-left ideologies. Because the reality was nobody was posting about corn. They were posting about things that made them upset. And anger resulted in shares. And the algorithm promoted this content. That's why they say touch grass, although the left never seems to do it. You go watch these man on the street videos and ask a far leftist how many unarmed black men were killed by police, and they're going to give you an insane number, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, when in 2019 it was like 9. More unarmed white people are killed by police than black people. Neither is good, and it's not a competition. But why does the left believe the lie? Because the manipulation of Google. Some journalist hears a story. They hear, a guy get run over by a car, shot by cops, something like that. They Google search it. Google then curates far left sources instead of moderate or right wing sources. A CNN reporter sees the far left source. It's easy. So they rewrite the article and say, according to this website. Now, CNN has shifted to the left. Everyone just starts believing it. The New York Times is like this. There's a story in the New York Times about a guy who said that he liked Chick-fil-A at an orientation and got told it was wrong because they hate gay people. And everyone started snapping their fingers because they're a cult. It's really, really fascinating for me to see all of this stuff. Because I predicted this a long time ago about Corn World, but it really is happening. When the far left do the sparkle fingers, when they do the finger snap or the jazz hands, imagine walking into a room and seeing, I wonder if I can find this Instagram post from myself, because it's not a video. I think I have it right here. Is this it? I think we got it. Let me play this video for you and just listen to yourself and then explain they're a cult. Let's see if we can get the audio going. Why is the audio not going? Here we go.
And do everything in my power to educate my community. I will love my black neighbors the same as my white ones. About racism, anti-blackness, or violence. I will use my voice in the most uplifting way possible. And do everything in my power to educate my community.
It's a cult. It's a cult. But my point here is this is the AI apocalypse. This is what Google is doing in the elections, whether they intend to or not. I view this as Gemini epitomizes and makes visible the epitome of the insanity that we've been seeing over the past 10 years because of technology and information algorithms. Perhaps as a way to break free. Not everybody is so susceptible to the manipulation because some people have mental fortitude, but many people don't. As I just played in that video, there's many people holding their hands in the air, chanting about far left indoctrination, agreeing with it like a cult. So you end up with this. Google produces an algorithm which shows people what it thinks they want. And then those people get influenced by that content and produce more of it. In a simple version, I warned about AI because AI is already writing news articles. Right now, the news articles fed into AI are written by humans. But eventually, humans will just have the AI write articles itself. The AI, being imperfect, will write fake and weird articles. Those fake and weird articles will get reabsorbed into the latest iteration of the AI, and it will start to create an inversion into itself, a circuitous blend of fake news influencing fake news, and the AI will become a false reality, which it already is. Hence Google Gemini. Why it was making black Nazis. Fortunately, there are still some humans resilient enough to recognize the errors here. Unfortunately for us, I feel that half this country, those who support Joe Biden, for instance, live in a world of information refuse for which their brains are plagued and likely broken. Irreparably. I don't know how you deprogram these people from the insanity and the lies, especially when the machine keeps churning it out. I look at the problems facing this country, and when I think about it, I start to completely understand the New World Order, Liberal Economic Order, World Economic Forum, Malthusian worldview, all that stuff, and I'll explain. You and I, we see this fracturing and this failing in humanity and the dangers that it leads to. We can easily articulate this, but there's no effective movement in Congress. It would seem that you have a machine that has run away. And thus, you end up with powerful elites saying, there is no mechanism through which Congress will solve this problem. So they use manipulation to get what they want. I get it. We here try to win amicably, reasonably, peacefully, and appropriately. We try to say, let us solve the problem at the ballot box. But what do you do when half the people in this country live in an algorithmic fake world where they believe fake things? Their whole world for a decade built upon lies. Google is rigging the 2024 election, but it's a toilet. It's just swirling around in circles and sucking people into oblivion. I don't see how we get out of this one because there's way too many people that are in the cult and believe fake things. I don't have the answers. I can only tell you that it's happening, and far be it from me to do anything else. Seriously. Get ready. We talk about deprogramming people, trying to break people free, but man, this is a beast to defeat. I don't think we will get the legal action, the litigation that we need. Perhaps there is still a chance for those of us who have not been sucked into the machine or who have broken free from it. There's a chance that we could elect Donald Trump and that Donald Trump might actually do something about this. But I'm not so sure. We'll just have to try. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.